Welcome back to Indiana Diecast Racing and the continuing action of the Final Fantasy Fracas. Today we've got groups 73 and 74. Boasting what is probably the highest percentage of cars in round 2, Numbskull of Numbskull Racing hits the track again, this time in Lumpy, an 82-gram Dodge Super 8. Conversely, boasting probably the lowest team percentage of advancing drivers, Black Bart represents Rust Belt Diecast in Pushin' Up Daisies, a radical racer weighing 35 grams. From MQH Racing, Comet is driving the 64-gram bully goat called Ice Goat. And lastly, continuing the group of Reservoir Dog characters, Mr. Pink joins us from Dubious Diecast in Love Beat, a 50-gram Batmobile. Lap 1 with Numbskull and Black Bart up front, Comet and Mr. Pink in the back. Numbskull off to a hot start, he quickly leaves the field behind. Comet wrecks an Echo Base, ooh, and Black Bart crashes big time as Mr. Pink weaves past Comet. Numbskull wins, and Mr. Pink with a celebration spin. Well, folks were lamenting the lack of recent chaos, and we may have finally found some. Early indications that Numbskull will be the class of Group 73. Comet taking Echo Base too shallow and rolls himself, then Mr. Pink appears to push Black Bart into the wall, colliding with the Echo Base sign, which is ironic since that was printed at Rust Belt Customs. A couple of donuts to get us started. Comet assumes the pole. His DNF was quite unfortunate as he looked to be set up for a decent run. Numbskull doesn't get so far ahead from the outside lane this time, but he leads again anyways. Mr. Pink spins, but they all make it through the S. Numbskull wins, and I think this one's going to be a triple DNF, as Comet has wrecked and collected Mr. Pink, while Black Bart has wisely pulled up short of the pile. Just off camera, Comet rolled in the C47 turn. Second place, Mr. Pink assumes the pole for lap 3, Comet on the outside. Comet wins the race to turn 2, Numbskull hot on his heels. Comet wins, Numbskull second, and Mr. Pink barely makes it across the line for third. Bart has spun out on the back straight, and that'll be his third consecutive DNF. This was a great effort by Comet, who had to fight off the obviously faster Numbskull all the way from turn 2 to the finish line. The Skullman locks up the group victory. Comet and Mr. Pink will battle for second on the final lap. Comet at a disadvantage here, starting behind Mr. Pink on the outside lane. Mr. Pink with a good start, but Numbskull is really pushing Black Bart down the track. Bart leads for the first time today. Oh, he takes a hard hit from Numbskull in the S. Numbskull's still pushing Bart, and Bart will take lap 4. Numbskull is second, and Mr. Pink spins out, but I don't see Comet. Comet is also spun out, so we've got a double DNF, and that will send Mr. Pink into round 2 despite only finishing 2 laps for a total of 5 points. On to Group 74 with Woodrow Huckleberry Tiberius Boyd from Down Squad Racing in the Pride of Hanover, a 38-gram GT Hunter and possible marching band reference. From Funky Mother Chicken Racing, Linkster is in a Fast Fish, sister to the one he recently drove in Group 67. Speedbait weighs 46 grams. Representing both IDR and Numbskull Racing in a donation car, Numbskull is driving Gotta Go Back in Time, a 55-gram DeLorean time machine with Rust Belt custom decals. Snowbirding early from Canada, Duke Canuck is from the A team in Starfighter, a cosmic coupe weighing in at 57 grams. Woody and Link start up front, Numbskull and Duke in the back. The inside lane inches ahead and we're off. Numbskull loose and Echo Base, allowing Woody to pull away. Woody in trouble. He collects Numbskull and Linkster as Duke Canuck sails by. He'll claim the win on a triple DNF opening lap. Woody must have gotten really loose entering the square, because you can see the back end of his car hanging over the outside wall as he slides to a stop. Duke chooses the high line wisely and avoids the stop traffic. Canada alone on the board after one. Numbskull moves up alongside Woody for lap 2. Numbskull and Duke take off pretty quick. Numbskull rolls, and this time Woody navigates the chaos to take the lead. Duke and Linkster finally get by, but they're way behind Woody, and only Duke will follow Woody across the line as Linkster has blown a tire and come to a stop on the back straight. Well, y'all wanted chaos, and you're definitely getting it today. Numbskull suffers the "I entered Echo Base too shallow and rolled over" curse, and this time Canuck gets trapped while Woody gets lucky with the right line. Duke eventually gets by and with some help from Linkster, reaches the finish line for second. Woody joins Duke on the board, who can lock in his spot in round 2 on the next lap. And Duke will have a great opportunity starting from the pole. I'm really hoping this is a smooth lap. Writing all the scripted voiceover for this much chaos is pretty tedious. Duke and Numbskull lead the group as Linkster slides and blocks Woody. Numbskull catches Duke, but now he drops back. He spins and finishes backwards just ahead of Woody and Linkster, and everyone finishes the lap. Sure enough, that wins the group for Duke Canuck. Woody will take a 3-point lead over Numbskull into lap 4. This will be interesting since this lap only really matters to the drivers on the back row. Numbskull gets the edge over Woody, but he's got to beat him by 3 positions. Numbskull launches off the Echo Base turn, and this one is over. Woody doesn't even need to finish the lap, but he passes Linkster, who's having issues on the back straight. Duke Canuck victory drifts across the line, Woody takes second, and Linkster will finish a disappointing day with a DNF. You wouldn't believe how loud it is when the cars hit the wall at top speed. Canuck and Woody move on. Some great scores by Duke and Numbskull today. Sorry folks, no new wildcards. Congratulations to Duke Canuck, Numbskull, Woody Boyd, and Mr. Pink. This has been Jim D for Indiana Diecast Racing. Be sure to check in next time for more slightly above mediocre diecast racing in the continuing round 1 action of the Final Fantasy Fracas.